Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something that no one ever does. What if I told you that your biggest weakness, your scattered mind, could be transformed into a weapon more powerful than any tool you've ever used? What if I told you there's a way to become 50% smarter, not by learning more, but by unlearning distraction, noise, and mental clutter? And what if this hack didn't just make you smarter, but made you dangerous? Dangerous not in a violent way, but in a way that commands attention, earns respect, and moves through life with absolute precision. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share isn't motivation, it's transformation. And if you watch this till the end, you'll walk away with something that rewires your mind for power. In a chaotic world, the person who can pause, breathe, and observe without reacting holds the ultimate advantage. When your mind is still, it doesn't shut down, it wakes up. We often confuse intelligence with information. But what if the smartest people are simply the most disciplined? Discipline filters the noise, so you only act on what matters. Reacting emotionally makes you easy to read, easy to manipulate. But when you master, most people are scattering their brain power on endless tabs, notifications, and impulses. You want to become smarter overnight. Learn to focus like a laser. You'll outperform those who've been grinding for years. You can't be mentally strong in a physically weak body. Training your body isn't about looks, it's about building a foundation your mind can trust. Reactivity is weakness. Intention is strength. When every move you make comes from deliberate intent, people notice. You become a presence, not just a person. Stillness. The moment you hear that word, what comes to mind? Silence, emptiness, doing nothing. Most people equate stillness with passivity, with laziness, or even weakness. They see stillness as the absence of movement, the absence of ambition, the absence of life. But this is where most people get it completely wrong. Stillness isn't the absence of power, it's the source of it. Stillness is not inactivity, it's intentional restraint. Imagine being in the middle of chaos. Everything around you is spiraling. People are shouting. Decisions are being made under pressure. Emotions are flaring. Now ask yourself, who has the real advantage in that moment? Not the loudest person. Not the fastest, but the one who can remain still, not frozen but fully aware. Stillness is the state in which your brain sharpens. It becomes like a blade, honed to a single edge. You stop reacting. You start observing. You notice patterns others miss. You don't get swept up in the noise you hear beneath it. Think of the greatest warriors, the sharpest minds, the most respected leaders throughout history. They all shared one quality, a calm, composed center, no matter what storms surrounded them. That calm isn't natural, it's not genetic, it's trained, and it comes from mastering the art of stillness. Here's what most people don't realize. Your brain is constantly burning energy on unnecessary reactions. That twitch when your phone buzzes. That subtle anxiety when you open 10 tabs on your browser. That instant rush of frustration when someone interrupts you. Each reaction costs you clarity. Each one chips away at your mental sharpness. Stillness is the practice of taking that power back, of sitting still mentally and physically, not because you're weak, but because you're in control. Most people never train this. They train movement, action, hustle, but movement without clarity is just chaos. You're running fast, but in circles. You're working hard, but not working smart. Stillness interrupts the noise. It resets the system. It gives your mind the space to breathe and recalibrate. And that's where the real intelligence lives. In stillness, you stop chasing thoughts. You let them come. You watch them without being pulled. You stop trying to control everything, and instead, you start understanding everything. This doesn't make you slower, it makes you precise. And precision is always more powerful than speed. When you learn to cultivate stillness, your instincts get sharper. You begin to see with depth. You start noticing things that were always there but buried under the noise, the emotion behind someone's words, the opportunity in someone's mistake, the weakness in someone's aggression. And when you can stay calm while others panic, you become the center of gravity in any room. People trust you more. They follow you. They fear you in a respectful way because they sense that you're not easily shaken. Stillness also builds endurance. When you're not wasting mental energy on reacting, you have more fuel for the things that matter. You make smarter decisions. You speak less but say more. You move less but accomplish more. In a world obsessed with speed, stillness becomes a secret weapon. While others are rushing to respond, you're watching, calculating, waiting. Then, when the time is right, you act. And when you do, it's with force, clarity, and direction. This is the paradox. To become more dangerous, become more still. To become smarter, do less but with more awareness. To gain power over others, start with power over yourself. Most people fear silence because they're afraid of what they'll find in it. But once you confront that silence, you realize it's where your strength lives, not in noise, not in chaos, but in presence. This is not some philosophical idea. It's a practical upgrade to your mind. And it's available to anyone willing to practice it through breath, through focus, through simply sitting still and watching the mind without judgment. Stillness is not a break from life. It is life at its highest resolution. And once you tap into it, you'll never operate the same way again, because now you're not just reacting to life, you're commanding it. People often think intelligence is about how much you know. The more books you've read, the more facts you can recite, the higher your IQ, the smarter you are. That's what we're taught to believe, but there's a hidden truth that most people never realize. Real intelligence has less to do with how much you know, and more to do with how clearly you can think. Clarity is rare, clarity is powerful, and clarity does not come by accident. It comes from discipline. In a world overloaded with information, distraction is the real enemy. We're constantly bombarded social media feeds, breaking news, opinions, ads, noise from every direction. Our minds get pulled in 100 directions before we've even had our morning coffee. And when your attention is scattered, your thinking becomes foggy. You can't prioritize. You can't make clean decisions. You overthink simple problems and overlook obvious solutions. The world doesn't need more knowledge. It needs more clarity. So where does clarity come from? It comes from discipline, and discipline isn't punishment, it's power. Discipline means choosing what matters over what tempts you. It means structuring your life, not in a rigid, suffocating way, but in a way that eliminates mental clutter. Every time you make a disciplined choice to wake up early, to eat clean, to turn off notifications, to spend 30 minutes in silence instead of scrolling, you're clearing the fog. You're creating space in your mind. And in that space, intelligence expands. Your thoughts become sharper. You stop overcomplicating everything. You see what's really in front of you. People think mental clarity is about escaping the world. It's not. It's about facing the world without being drowned by it, and that takes discipline. Every single day, you're either training your mind to focus or training it to flee. Most people are mentally flabby, not because they're lazy, but because they've never been taught the value of mental discipline. It's like training a muscle. The more you discipline your habits, the stronger your clarity becomes, and over time, that clarity translates into speed, not physical speed, but mental speed. You make faster decisions, not rushed ones. You cut through problems while others are still confused. You don't hesitate because you're not tangled in second, guessing, or distraction. This is what separates high-level thinkers from the rest. They've trained their minds not just to know more, but to see more. They can zoom out and zoom in without losing their grip. That's clarity, and it doesn't come from chaos. It comes from routine, from intention. From discipline, the paradox is this: the more you control yourself, the more power you gain over everything else. Discipline creates mental order. That order creates clarity, and clarity allows you to think, speak, and act with force. Without discipline, your intelligence leaks. You can have the highest IQ in the world, but if your thoughts are tangled, if your emotions are reactive, if your focus is hijacked every 10 seconds, your intelligence never manifests. It just sits there, potential that never gets turned into action. But once you introduce discipline, once you make your mind a place of structure instead of chaos, something unlocks. You begin to operate on a different level. Your energy becomes cleaner, your speech becomes more impactful, your actions carry more weight, not because you're doing more, but because every move is intentional. The undisciplined mind is noisy, loud, reactive. It speaks quickly and regrets later. The disciplined mind is calm, direct, powerful. It speaks less, but when it does, everyone listens. That's the difference between mental clutter and mental clarity. You don't have to be a genius to become smarter. You have to become clearer. And clarity doesn't come from cramming in more, it comes from stripping away what's unnecessary. Discipline is the tool, the daily practice. The grind that no one sees, but that transforms everything behind the scenes. And if you commit to it, if you structure your time, your focus, your attention with purpose, you'll start noticing something. You're not just thinking faster. You're thinking deeper. You're not just reacting. You're anticipating. You're not just smart, you're sharp. Sharp enough to cut through any noise, any pressure, any situation. Discipline sharpens the blade. Clarity is the edge. Intelligence is the strike. Master the first, and the others will follow. There is a kind of strength that doesn't show up in muscles, titles, or loud victories. It doesn't show itself in how fast you run, how much you speak, or how aggressively you react. It shows up in the quietest, most invisible way, how well you control your emotions. Emotional control is one of the rarest forms of power in the modern world. Because in a society that constantly pokes, provokes, and pressures you to respond, to lash out, to break down, the person who can stay calm, the person who can feel everything but still choose their response, becomes unstoppable. Most people are ruled by emotion. They don't even know it. Anger pulls their words. Fear shapes their choices. Insecurity steers their behavior. They believe they're in control, but really, they're just reacting, moment by moment, driven by impulse. And that's exactly why they remain predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to provoke. Emotional control changes that instantly. It flips the dynamic. You go from being the chess piece to becoming the player. Instead of being moved by others, you start moving others. But let's be clear, emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean becoming cold, robotic, or detached. In fact, it's the opposite. It means you feel everything, but you don't let any of it own you. You process the emotion without letting it poison your thoughts. You feel anger without becoming rage. You feel fear without becoming paralyzed. You feel sadness without becoming broken. And that subtle mastery, that pause between what happens and how you respond, is where your superpower lies. The moment you can sit with your emotions without acting on them, without needing to scream, explain, or escape, you become powerful in a way most people will never understand. You gain composure. And in any high-pressure situation, composure beats aggression every single time. Imagine being in an argument, the other person is yelling, throwing blame, trying to provoke you. Most people would react. They'd get loud, get defensive, get emotional. But when you stay calm, when you hold your ground and refuse to lose control, you flip the power dynamic completely. You stop being the target, you become the mirror, and people can't fight what they can't move. Emotional control isn't just about conflict, though. It's also about clarity. When you master your emotional responses, your mind becomes clearer. Your decisions become better. You stop saying things you regret. You stop making choices based on fear, ego, or pressure. You start acting from a place of purpose instead of pain. This makes you dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a disciplined one. Because now, no one can read you. They don't know what rattles you. They don't know what you're planning. You become a mystery. And in a world where people show their emotions like flashing neon signs, being unreadable gives you massive strategic advantage. Think about how much is lost every day because people can't control themselves. Arguments escalate, opportunities are ruined, reputations are shattered, all because someone couldn't manage a temporary emotion. Now flip that. Imagine how much is gained by the one who can feel frustration, but still speak calmly, who can feel fear, but still take the shot, who can feel insulted, but respond with precision, not reaction. Emotional control is power over self, and when you master self, the external world has nothing left to use against you. Of course, this isn't easy. It requires training. It requires awareness. You have to catch yourself before the emotion takes over. You have to breathe when every part of you wants to explode. You have to pause when your ego wants to strike. And with every moment of control, you build something far greater than pride. You build presence. People follow presence. People trust presence. And people fear presence. Not because it's loud, but because it's unshakable. You can walk into any room, any negotiation, any confrontation, and know this. No matter what happens, you won't be moved by emotion. You will see it, feel it, and then act with clarity. In that moment, you are no longer a slave to the environment. You are its master. Emotional control is not a luxury. It's not a soft skill. It's the difference between chaos and command, between reaction and intention, between being average and being unforgettable. And once you master it, you'll never give your power away again. We live in a time when information is everywhere. The knowledge is cheap. Answers are instant. You don't need to be a genius to look smart anymore. You just need an internet connection and a few search terms. But here's the truth no one talks about. It's not intelligence that separates the exceptional from the average anymore, it's focus. Focus has become a superpower. In a world filled with endless distractions, the person who can focus deeply and deliberately holds an advantage that is almost unfair. Most people can't go 5 minutes without checking their phone. They switch between tasks, conversations, apps, and tabs like it's normal. But every time they do, they're training their brain to be fragmented. They're building the habit of shallow attention, never staying long enough with a problem to solve it, never going deep enough into a skill to master it. They don't realize what they're sacrificing. Because when your attention is scattered, your intelligence is compromised. Your brain can't perform at a high level when it's constantly being interrupted. It's not designed to multitask. It's designed to lock in, to immerse, to enter a state of flow where every ounce of your mental energy is directed at one thing, and that's where real breakthroughs happen. Focus isn't just about productivity. It's about presence. It's about becoming so immersed in what you're doing that the world falls away, and in that space, something rare happens. You tap into your full capacity. You don't just get more done, you get the right things done. You don't just perform better, you evolve. But this level of focus doesn't happen by chance. It has to be trained. You have to earn it. Just like a muscle, your focus grows stronger the more you challenge it. You have to fight the urge to switch tasks. You have to protect your attention like it's sacred because it is. Look around. Most people are mentally exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too much that doesn't matter. They've given their attention to everything and everyone except the thing that moves their life forward. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, overwhelmed, mediocre. Now picture someone who does the opposite. Someone who builds their day around focus, who turns off notifications, who creates space for deep work, who protects their mornings like a fortress. That person doesn't just look smarter, they become smarter. Because they're not dipping their toe in 20 things, they're going deep into the one thing that matters. That kind of mental discipline sharpens everything. It makes your thinking faster, your decisions clearer, your presence stronger. People notice when you're truly focused because it's rare, it's magnetic, it demands respect, and over time it compounds. You get better faster. You finish what others abandon. You spot what others miss. Focus also breeds confidence. When you know you can lock in, when you trust your own mind to stay with a challenge until it bends, you stop doubting yourself. You stop needing validation. You know your edge comes not from talent alone, but from the ability to apply that talent with full intensity. This is why focus is more than just a habit. It's a mindset, a declaration that you refuse to let your mind be a playground for the world's noise. That you are here to move with intent, not drift with distractions. There's a reason the highest performers in every field, from athletes to entrepreneurs to creators, have strict routines and guard their time fiercely. It's not because they're control freaks. It's because they understand that focus is currency. Every minute you're distracted is a minute you've invested in someone else's agenda instead of your own. If you want to rise above average, you don't need to outwork everyone. You need to outfocus them. While they scatter, you concentrate. While they react, you direct. While they drift, you drive. This is not about intensity once in a while, it's about consistency. Showing up every day with your mind aimed like a laser. Because when your attention is locked in, your intelligence becomes a weapon. Your performance elevates. Your ideas become clearer. Your actions hit harder. So forget trying to be the smartest person in the room. Be the most focused, because in the modern world, focus is intelligence, and those who master it rule it. Everyone experiences pain, physical pain, emotional pain, failure, rejection, loss, setbacks. No one is exempt from it. But what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is not the pain itself, it's what you do with it. Most people run from pain. They avoid it, numb it, bury it. They pretend it didn't happen or try to distract themselves with noise, scrolling, entertainment, comfort. But pain doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It waits, it builds, and eventually it shows up in other areas of your life, in hesitation, in self-doubt, in anger, in mediocrity. But there is another path, one that very few take. It's the path of turning pain into power. This begins when you stop seeing pain as something that weakens you and start recognizing it as something that can refine you. Because pain carries information, it teaches you where your limits are, where you're still fragile, where you've been depending on things outside yourself for strength. Pain exposes the truth, and truth is the foundation of power. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when you're stretched, when you're broken open, when you're forced to face yourself without filters, without masks. That's where you meet your real self, not the version you show to the world, but the one underneath. Pain creates the pressure that reveals character. It shows whether you will fold or forge, whether you'll collapse or construct something new, and the choice is always yours. When you stop resisting pain and start confronting it, you begin to extract energy from it. You begin to build discipline through discomfort. You learn how to keep moving even when every part of you wants to stop. That's how resilience is born, not from inspiration, but from surviving your own inner storm and deciding to rise anyway. Every person you admire, every leader, every warrior, every high-level performer has one thing in common. They have walked through pain and used it. They didn't let it close them, they let it crack them open, and from that opening they built something stronger. A mindset that doesn't break under pressure, a focus that doesn't falter in adversity, a fire that doesn't go out just because things get dark. Pain can make you bitter, or it can make you dangerous. It can make you smaller, or it can become the raw material for greatness. When you channel it, when you shape it, it becomes fuel, a silent energy source that drives you when motivation fades, a reminder of what you've survived and what you refuse to go back to. You may not have chosen the pain that came into your life, but you do get to choose the meaning it carries, and that meaning can define your future. You can turn heartbreak into hunger. You can turn failure into fuel. You can turn trauma into a tool that sharpens your perception, hardens your discipline, and deepens your empathy. This is not about glorifying suffering. It's about refusing to waste it. If you're going to feel it, make it build you. Don't just recover, reinvent. Don't just survive, restructure. Take the ashes of what hurt you and forge them into armor. The people who rise the highest are not the ones who never fell, they are the ones who fell, and then built a staircase out of every broken piece. They are the ones who sat in their pain, listened to it, learned from it, and then stood up different, not softer, not colder, but clearer, sharper, stronger, because once you've walked through real pain and chosen to grow from it, something inside you changes permanently. You become unshakable. You stop fearing discomfort because you've learned to thrive inside it. You stop needing guarantees because you've already been through the worst and you're still here. You carry a silent strength that doesn't need to prove itself because it's already been proven. Turning pain into power isn't a one-time thing. It's a way of living, a way of approaching everything that happens to you with this question: how can I use this? Not why me, but what now? Not this broke me, but this built me. And when you start living like that, your pain becomes your ally. Your story becomes your strength. Your past no longer holds you back, it pushes you forward. And every scar becomes a source of wisdom, every wound a mark of transformation. This is how warriors are made, not in the absence of pain, but in the mastery of it. In a world obsessed with speed, noise, and endless motion, stillness is often misunderstood. People think stillness means doing nothing, standing still, being passive. But that's not what true stillness is. True stillness is internal. It's the ability to remain composed, focused, and centered even while everything around you is moving at full speed. It's mastery of inner silence, even in the chaos. There's a kind of clarity that only emerges in stillness, when the mind isn't chasing the next task, the next distraction, the next problem, when it isn't pulled by anxiety or pressure or noise. In that rare space, your thoughts settle. And when they settle, the truth rises. You start seeing things as they are, not as your fears or emotions have distorted them. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop overthinking. You become grounded, and that grounding is power. People think power comes from how loud you speak, how fast you move, how busy you are. But real power often moves in silence. It listens more than it speaks. It calculates while others are panicking. It's calm under fire. That calm is not weakness. It's precision. It's the product of an inner world that isn't at war with itself. And that kind of mind, one that can move without being moved internally, is rare. Most people live with mental noise, an inner monologue that never stops, regret from the past, worry about the future, fear of judgment, cravings for approval, and that noise becomes the default. It clouds every decision. It weakens every action. You can be physically still, but mentally chaotic, and that's not stillness, that's paralysis. Stillness in motion means something else. It means moving through the world fast, aggressive, strategic, if needed, while inside, you remain unshaken. You're not ruled by thought, you use thought. You're not distracted by emotion, you observe it. You don't chase validation or overreact to provocation. Your moves are deliberate, not frantic, not desperate, but clear, clean, efficient. This inner stillness doesn't come from hiding. It comes from training. You build it like a muscle. You start by observing your thoughts instead of drowning in them. You build routines that bring structure to your day, and you stick to them. You create space in your life, even just 10 minutes, where you disconnect from the external world and listen. Not to podcasts, not to advice, but to yourself, to your breath, to your awareness, to the silence underneath all the noise. Because when you learn to be still within, you stop being controlled by anything external. You don't fear losing things because you've already found the one thing that matters: command of your own mind. And here's the paradox. Inner stillness doesn't slow you down. It sharpens you. It makes you faster, smarter, more decisive, because now your actions aren't clouded by noise. They're not reactions, they're responses. Strategic, powerful, unapologetically intentional. When your mind is silent, your instincts speak louder. Your perception sharpens. You catch details others miss. You feel energy others overlook. You sense when to wait and when to strike. This is what gives elite performers their edge: not just skills or intelligence, but the ability to stay mentally still when everything around them is shaking. Stillness is strength. It allows you to absorb pressure without crumbling. It lets you sit in discomfort without needing escape. It helps you endure pain without losing purpose. And above all, it keeps you connected to your core, your values, your vision, your truth. No matter how fast you have to move on the outside, in business, in life, in crisis, never lose that stillness inside. That's your anchor. That's your compass. That's what makes you immune to manipulation, calm in conflict, and powerful in silence. Stillness in motion is not a contradiction. It's the highest form of movement. It's the state where your body moves, your strategy executes, your goals advance, but your mind remains undisturbed, balanced. Empty of noise, full of clarity, the warrior who moves with inner stillness does not flinch, does not doubt, does not fall apart under pressure, because they've already fought the battle within, and they've already won. So while the world chases more speed, more noise, more stimulation, choose the opposite. Choose the silence, choose the space between thoughts, choose the awareness that watches, the mind that waits, the power that doesn't need to shout. Because once you master inner stillness, you become the calm inside every storm, and nothing can touch you the same way again.